Hey, GW coming to you live. First of all, I've been up for a while. I got up around 2:30 this morning. So I decided to check out Ty West's new movie, Maxine, which we're going to get into in a minute. But before I do anything, I'd like to give a big shout out to um, two of the most coolest people that work in Subway, Brandy Boofer and Lily. They uh, they really made some awesome sandwiches. They went out of their way for us, and I just wanted to give them a big shout out. Also, we will be getting into the Predator reviews because I did check my whole timeline, and I never really did anything with them. And my buddy Josh, he said that he watched one of my previous videos about me and my ex girlfriend, and I'm just glad that they're still being circulated. I'm glad people are paying attention. I am also glad that, you know, people are starting to take notice. So thank you, Josh. Thank you, Brandy. Thank you, Lily. Yesterday, like I said, was a very, very, very bad day. I mean, from the start of the day to about 8 o'clock at night, it was nothing but Murphy's Law, and it sucked. And there's so many things that I could get into, but I'd rather just let that die. So we're going to get into Maxine. And I'll tell you something. Ty West ended the X Pearl trilogy, whatever you want to call it, with a bang because this movie is awesome in everything it tries to do. Um, and what I like about it, it has flashbacks to X. If you guys haven't seen that, I'll recap each movie. But basically, X stars Maxine Minx, Mia Goth, who I think is a very, very cool actress. I love her work. I mean, everything she does, I like, but that's beside the point. Um, X was about a group of porn stars who rent property from an old couple, and half the movie is an adrenaline fueled rush where you get to see the porn film being made. The other half turns into a Texas Chainsaw Massacre esque slasher, and it basically was pretty cool. If you haven't seen it, I suggest you check it out. Pearl was about the killer, the old lady who was in X who decided to kill people. You see her past life and why she became a killer and certain things that added to it, and it was great. This film takes the survivor of X, Maxine, and you get to see her in Hollywood trying to make it against the backdrop of the Night Stalker's reign of terror back in the 80s. So let's get right into it. First of all, it has a pretty cool cast. It has Kevin Bacon. He plays a sleazy detective. And when I mean sleazy, I mean sleazy, guys. Like, look, he is hired by an unknown source to follow Maxine to dig up her past. Um, Now, we're going to just go by order of appearance here. So, Maxine Miller is played by Charlie McCain. Ernest Miller is played by Simon Prast. Maxine Minx by Mia Goth. Elaine Casting is played by Deborah Geffner. Okay. Producer is played by Daniel Lynch. Elizabeth Bender is Elizabeth Debicki. Amber James is Chloe Farnworth. Frankie Love is Brad Swank. Shepard Turry is played by Uli Latufka. Angel's played by Susan Pingleton. Tabby Martin plays Halsey in the movie. So there's some good names in there. Now, basically, the story's about Maxine, who works in the adult entertainment industry. And she, at the beginning of the movie, has an audition for a movie called The Puritan, which is kind of like Mark of the Devil. You know, it's a satanic deal. And she lives in downtown Hollywood, and she lives close to an adult bookstore video store slash horror movie rental place, because videos were huge in the 80s. Basically, she struggles in her career against the backdrop of, like I said, the Night Stalker's reign of terror. Also, there is a copycat killer who is leaving bodies in his wake of some of the female porn stars that Maxine Minx associates with, and also is targeting her. And this movie exudes 80s, from the soundtrack to the news articles that are being flashed, at the beginning, and just some of the references. I mean, it's basically takes you back in time to the 80s. You get to see a lot of things that are pretty cool, especially if you like that time period. And if you followed the trilogy, then you're pretty much, up to speed. But what happens is that as the killings are going on, the police question Maxine to see what's going on, see if she knows the killer. Now, the killings are quite graphic. There's not a lot of them, but the gore here, as in any Ty West movie, is very, very in your face, and basically, it doesn't hold back. Let's see. We get to see a very, very graphic stabbing. Just going to go over the gore count here for you guys. Stabbing in the back of the neck, stabbing across the right eye, or slicing across the right eye, I should say. Stabbing in the back, multiple stab wounds, gunshots. One character, and I don't want to reveal it, but it is one of the bloodiest scenes, and it just makes you go, holy shit, gets crushed in a car by a garbage compactor. And I was like, whoa, that's pretty wild. Multiple shootings, crucifix through the eye. We get to see an earring ripped out. A switchblade knife through a nose of a cult member. Lot of stuff like that. It's very entertaining. It runs for an hour and 44 minutes, and you cannot classify this, I don't think, as a horror picture. But what you could classify this as a thriller, crime, time period piece, I guess you could say. If you are a lover of movies, what's really interesting is that 50% of the movie takes place on the Universal Studios backlot, with a spotlight on the Bates Motel. And it's interesting because years and years and years and years and years ago, I did travel. We did go to California. We did do the whole Universal tour. I got to see that motel up close and personal. And it just harkened back to my childhood. I was like, that's really cool that they showcased that, for a little segment in the movie. The acting is on par. There's really a lot you can like about this film. And the acting of Mia Goth is just simply amazing, because she runs the whole gamut of emotions in this picture. She really does. I really, really enjoy, like I said at the beginning, anything she does, because she just has that presence, And like I said, one of the cool things about this picture is that there are flashbacks to X. Most notably, the end of X, where she is in the final battle with the old lady Pearl, again played by Mia Goth. And also the beginning of X, where they start shooting the movie. So it harkens back and it gives you a little bit. Maxine goes from, this porn actress who doesn't know anything, to a very commanding performance. And it's pretty awesome to see. Oh, we also, I forgot at the very end, we get to see a head explode from a double barrel gunshot, which is very, very, very graphic in and of itself. Um, as far as entertainment goes, this thing's tip top. You just got to stay with it. But I'm curious to see what Ty West has up his sleeve next. You know, like what kind of movie are we going to see? Are we going to go back to the horror movie? Are we going to see more movies like this? Because anything again Ty West does, I really do like. He just has a flair for getting people invested in his pictures. And this one, like I said, from start to finish, is nothing but an absolute thrill ride through the perils of being one of the most popular movie stars of all time, at least, in the 80s. So I can't really say anything bad. It's very entertaining. It really is. And it's probably one of these ones that's going to go underneath the radar. But as far as the acting quality is superior, the story is great. It moves pretty quickly. And if this is the end of the trilogy, it really did put a nice capper on it. But I'm wondering if he's got one more up his sleeve, you know. And as far as Kevin Bacon's performance as John Labatt, he he is one of the most sleaziest detectives that I think has ever been put on film. And I give Kevin Bacon credit for his performance because he makes you believe he's just this scumbag type character that walks around and thinks he can do whatever he wants and has an ignorance and arrogance about him that just exudes, what's the word I'm looking for? Exudes just offensiveness, because this guy is bottom of the barrel, right? But you also know that in his mind, as devious or as crazy as he gets. Oh, we also get to see Kevin Bacon beat up, or I'm sorry, not Kevin Bacon. His character, John Labatt, beat up with a set of keys that was pretty graphic. Or not graphic, just shocking. Because I'm like, okay, whoa, that was cool. Because some of this stuff you don't see really on film. I did like some of the segments in the movie more than others. I liked that in the movie, we did visit an adult bookstore / video store / horror rental place, because those have been out of business forever. It was nice to see that, see videotapes, and just have that showcased for, excuse me, just a couple of seconds. So, yeah, very good picture. Very, very good picture. I give it 5 out of 5 stars, honestly. And I'd like to thank Jeremy Cameron, who told me about it. Because I had not seen it. He saw this in the theater, and he's like, Greg, you got to see this. So, of course, I did what anybody would do. I bought it on Blu-ray, and I checked it out. And Jeremy, you were right, man. Awesome picture. Awesome picture. So thank you for recommending it. So, anyway, so I just wanted to come on and tell you that. Give shout outs to everybody. But you know what? We got some time. Maybe I will cover Predator. I know the first one by heart, so this shouldn't be a problem. So we're going to talk about Predator real quick, and then Predator 2 maybe tomorrow or before the weekend. Or before the week is over. The weekend's over. So Predator is a 1987 action movie, and it stars Arnold Schwarzenegger. And if you guys do not know this movie, I suggest you check it out, because it's an interesting movie. But I would not play the Nintendo game. Yes, there was a Nintendo game of Predator. If you guys don't know, I had it, and it was the most sloppily put together video game in history. But we'll get to that later. But it stars Arnold Schwarzenegger, Carl Weathers, Jesse the Body Ventura, Maria Conchita Alonso is in that film too, and basically it's about a group of military specialists who go to do one mission in the jungles, and they are systematically hunted by an alien from outer space who's played by Kevin Peter Hall. Kevin Peter Hall, if you guys don't know, has played a lot of things. He passed away some years ago, but he has played the Predator. Interestingly enough, too, guys, do you know Jean-Claude Van Damme was up for the role of the Predator? But the costume didn't fit right. Think about that. You guys can look that up. That's actual fact. So, Predator starts systematically taking Arnold Schwarzenegger's team of crack commandos down, one by one. And he hunts by using what I call predator vision. In the movie, you'll see he hunts them by analyzing their body temperature, finding that out. And I think the movie was done by John McTiernan. I'm not sure. I think he directed that film. But anyway, they are systematically picked apart one by one. The military and action sequences are great. They're anything you would expect from a Schwarzenegger epic. But one of the standouts was Jesse the Body Ventura. He was in a few movies. This one was one of his big breaks. And then, of course, he ran for Congress. Carl Weathers then turned out an action picture called Action Jackson shortly after this with Craig T. Nelson. If you guys don't know, check that out. It's a nice little movie because Carl Weathers did pass away not too long ago. Yeah, and what happens in the film, guys, is that as the team is being systematically apart, they're trying to figure out what they're hunted by. Now, the cool thing about the Predator, guys, and this is if you don't know anything about him, the Predator is a hunter by nature. So anytime he kills something, he likes to take trophies, most notably the skull and the spine of his victims. And there's some cool shots of him doing that in the first movie, more so in the second movie. But he also has razors on his hands. He has a frisbee thing that can cut through anything. I think I'm just going to call it a glaive. He has a shoulder cannon. So, I mean, this alien is ready for anything. And toward the end of the movie, Arnold Schwarzenegger figures out that he can cover himself with mud to sort of hide from the Predator. And very, very good movie. A lot of cool stuff. The special effects are pretty good. The story, like I said, if you don't know where it's going to go or haven't seen the movie, takes one of those left turns because if you turn it on TV and you're just seeing the military part of it, it does a switch halfway through the movie. And it was one of my favorite movies growing up. I used to see it on TV. We had rabbit ears, on our TV. We used to have the rabbit ears. You used to be able to play around with them. And it was on Channel 9. We didn't get Channel 9, so I had to sit there and mess around with the rabbit ears. And I watched it with the color fading in and out. But I'm like, oh. Now, Nintendo, like I said, when Nintendo first came out, they were trying to cash grab every license you can find. So they had Super Mario Brothers, Contra, and then they decided to branch out. So one of the video games they made was Predator. Predator, you starred as Arnold Schwarzenegger, and Arnold Schwarzenegger in the movie plays Lieutenant Dutch Schaefer in the film. And you play as him. It was a 2D action scroller where you were basically in the jungle and you were shooting things like snakes or bears or whatever, right? And if you did the side scrolling and you beat the one board, you entered what they called BMG mode. What does that mean? I don't even know what it means. But then your little character turned into a dude this big, walking around with a shotgun, And eventually you would shoot floating predator heads. You would shoot, you know, mirror images of the predator, and you have different ammunition. So you had the straight ammunition, you had the spread ammunition. And no matter what you did, you had to survive BMG mode. And the game was stupid because it was almost unbeatable. Because then it would throw you back into a side-scrolling thing, and you would just rinse and repeat. There was no final ending to the game. At least I never found it. I played that game religiously, guys. And, you know, after a while, you realize when you go back and you watch the movie, you know, that the game was a piece of garbage. And you can look it up. It is one of the worst games in the history of Nintendo franchise. So, they made that. And then they come out with Predator 2. I'll get into that tomorrow, but Predator 2 also had a video game with it too for the Sega Genesis. It was an over-the-top shoot-'em action side-scroller. And it was done much better. Done much better. And I can still remember the password for the last board, guys. It was Total Body. So if you guys have that, and you have a copy of Predator 2 for your old Sega Genesis you got going on, go into password, type in Total Body, and you tell me. It'll take you to the last board. Very, very well done. In Predator 2, Danny Glover took the reins from Arnold Schwarzenegger, and he is briefly mentioned in the second film. It also stars Gary Busey. Ruben Blades was also in that film, guys. But the thing I remember most about the first movie was that as a kid, I thought that was the coolest thing in history. You know, military guys going up against an alien. I mean, those two things just scream, you know, entertainment, excitement. The Predator, we learned later after the first couple of films, is in the same universe as the alien. We learned that. We know that because years ago, they released a really shitty movie called Alien vs. Predator. PG-13. So they took an R-rated franchise and dumbed it down to a PG-13, and then the fans hated it. Then they turned around and made Alien Predator Requiem, which I still haven't seen, but it's rated R, so I know they kept the violence and carnage in there. But what I liked about the first film is not only did it have an all-star cast and was well directed, it was very entertaining for its time, and it didn't use that much special effects except for when the Predator can turn invisible. And the Predator franchise, it seems like it just is going to continue in some form or another. I remember 2 or 3 years ago for the PlayStation 4, they released Predator Hunting Grounds, a sort of multiplayer game where you could play as the Predator, you could play as Dutch Schaefer, you could play as, you know, different types of Predators, and it's a multiplayer deal. And the Predator, I think, also returned for some 2D fighting games prior to that. Alien vs. Predator by Capcom, where you could play as the Predator, you could play as Dutch Schaefer, you could play as an alien, you could play as Lieutenant Curiosa, I think that's her name, who was in the comic book of the Alien Predator franchise. So it just continues to do. Adrian Brody then later on got his hand into a Predator film called Predators, which was supposed to be a remake or rehash of it. And it just continues to live on and dwindle. But going back to the first film, there's so much to like about it. There really is. And it's Schwarzenegger's one of his earliest films. And there are some deleted scenes. I'm not going to spoil them for you. But if you're going to get the movie on Blu-ray or DVD, get the special edition 2-disc version, the making of it, the deleted scenes, the stories behind the set are great. Like I said, not a lot of people know Jean-Claude Van Damme was up for the role of the Predator. He just couldn't fit in the costume. There's other little tidbits of storytelling, you know, and facts about that. But for the all-star cast, the way the story was put together, it was a very, very cool thriller. And it's one that, like, people know Schwarzenegger now from, like, The Expendables or, his later movies, like True Lies. But people forget, like, about Predator, Conan the Barbarian. He was even in a flick with, who was that girl? She played Red Sonja. I forget her name. She used to be married to Sylvester Stallone because she was also in Rocky 4. Yeah. Bridget Nielsen. Yeah, people forget about Schwarzenegger's early stuff, But Predator is a standout movie because it's entertaining the whole way around. There's a lot of carnage in there, mostly, like I said. But the Predator also skins his victims, and I think they toned that down in the second film. In the first film, even in the video game, you came up and there was a plane that you had to investigate that had two flight crew members skinned alive, and that was in the video game too. And then the video game, like I said, went to crap after that. Seems like they tried to do too much with that. But definitely check Predator out. It is one of my favorite films. I could watch that film time and time again because it holds up today, and I just hope to God that they don't do a remake, because if they do, it's not nearly going to be as powerful as the original. Speaking of remakes, real quick, my wife showed me an article about 2 or 3 days ago. They're going to try to remake Die Hard with Zac Efron. And my comment was, I don't want them to do a remake of Die Hard. But if they're going to do it, they better do it right. And don't throw out no PG-13 garbage with a predictable story that's probably going to miss terribly at the box office. It's just a bad idea. And I know why they're doing all these remakes. It's because they want the new generation to get hip to the movies that me and like Josh and some of these other people grew up on. And some of them work, but a lot of them fail, and that's the problem. But like I said, Halloween, definitely check out Maxine. It is a very, very cool movie, especially with the car crushing scene. It's just viciously done, and it's just like, whoa, buddy. I really did enjoy this film, but I think ultimately, if you watch the trilogy like in one day, it'll have a more powerful effect than watching them separately. So Ty West really hit it out of the park with this one, especially the introduction to this movie. The credits, it takes us from, the acting audition through the strip club, watching a porn film being made, and then ultimately dropping us in a crime thriller. And I really enjoyed that. And the news clips that play, vintage 80s, classic stuff. There's really, like I said, nothing to not like in this film, except you wonder where it's going to go next. So that's my take on Maxine. Definitely check it out. I really enjoyed it. GW. Peace.